let's go over the actual patch notes for everything that's been updated and changed for update 28.2, and we'll talk about some of the stuff in there. We'll watch PUBG's a quick little recap video, and then we'll break it down.
Welcome to update 28.2. Join us for our 7th anniversary celebrations, an all-new SMG experience in the arcade, and finally, the recall system update.
I like how they're saying finally. Like, yeah, finally.
We've got lots of surprises in store for you to celebrate our 7th birthday. Erengel's school will be transformed into a festive 7th anniversary.
It's like Guan Yu, or not Guan Yu.
Plus, keep an eye out for throwable
what was Dragon Ball Z?
And surprise gift boxes scattered across the starting island of each map.
We've
been hard
at shoot, what was it called?
SMGs to offer a more unique experience and accommodate various gunplay strategies.
What was the team in Dragon Ball Z? The pink guy with the horns led it. He was the one who could like flash clone into another person. It's Captain Guinea? I forget. They all did those like cool dances and stuff. Not Piccolo. Piccolo's green.
Is all set for you to try out these changes. So get that early feel and let us know what you think.
All right. Recall system.
And
Yay!
There's more exciting news. Based on your positive feedback, we're expanding the recall system.
Thank gosh.
Candy and Tago.
No more comeback
Check out
BR.
the patch notes to discover all the details of this update.
You see this?
Lastly, this patch.
They're literally teasing the use of all the SMGs in Team Deathmatch, but they didn't release it that way, which is frustrating.
Update. Lastly, this patch also includes weapon mastery.
This is pretty cool. They added throwables to the weapon mastery.
Be sure to dive into the patch notes for all the details. And we'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Yay! Update 28.2. Okay, so that was a nice little quick recap, synopsis of the update. Whoops. Here's all the specifics, shall we? Ginyu Force, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Gosh, why could I not remember that? I love freaking Dragon Ball Z. I could not remember that. Anyway, that little dance he did reminded me of that. Okay, so map selection, map rotation, right? For all of the regions, North America, EU, etc., that have random map selection, we are going to have week 1, Erangel, Rondo, Vikindi, Miramar, and Paramo. We are in week 1. So these are the maps that we're going to have this week. Next week, it'll rotate into those. Rotations featuring Destin will have a 20% probability for each map. Weeks 1 and week 3, fixed and favored maps will have a 22% probability, and etc. maps will have 11%. Good. So that means we are only going to have an 11% chance to play Paramo and an 11% chance to play Sandhawk. I think that's good. Okay, what else? You guys already seen the 7th anniversary makeover for Erangel. It is only going to be temporary, the makeover for Erangel. It's not any big changes. It's just some flair. They've done similar things in the past. The big thing, PUBG Gunplay Labs is now essentially the new test server. So no longer are you going to have to download and update PUBG test server to play the new changes that PUBG is making in the game. Gunplay Labs is where they're making the SMG Rebalance. SMG Rebalance. Now, there's a number of things that they're doing here. A number of changes, okay? Let me preface this by saying in order to play the arcade mode, you have to go to arcade and go to the SMG Rebalance, not just like Team Deathmatch, okay? It does say the SMG Rebalance is also accessible in custom match, which I need to go check that out because I didn't see that when I went to go start a lobby. That's actually really important. So I missed that earlier. Okay, so SMG's movement speed has been increased when you're holding an SMG. The basic movement speed is increased by 2.5%. The sprinting speed by an additional 2.5%. So basically, you know how when you're playing PUBG, people will put down their weapons to run faster? You don't have to do that anymore if you have an SMG in your hand. You can essentially run the same speed as you could with no weapons in your hand. So that is a a very big buff. It doesn't seem like it's that much, 2.5%, but it just allows you to always have your gun at the ready and never have to sacrifice movement speed with being able to quickly shoot an enemy. That's number one. Number two, a number of the SMGs are seeing buffs to their damage and recoil. So the MP5K damage is going up 1, and the recoil is being reduced by 7 and 5%. The Micro Uzi has its recoil reduced by 10 and 15%. Very significant. Vector and the Tommy gun have horizontal and vertical reduced by 5 and 7. The Pepe Bison increased damage to 38. This thing has 50 rounds of magazine capacity from Jump Street, only requires a compensator or suppressor, and now has even more damage and even less recoil. The UMP 45 damage increased from 41 to 43, and it has its horizontal recoil decreased by 5%. These are all very, very big buffs to these weapons. But they're not done there. Now, the two they didn't touch, the JS9 and the MP9. So those are not affected by damage increases or recoil reductions, okay? So those are unaffected. However, damage by distance has been applied to all SMGs except the P90. That's still the crate weapon, which I think is fair that remains untouched. But anyway, so that's damage by distance is a very good nerf to the SMGs. So they increased the damage reduction for medium and long range shots, and they reduced the minimum damage that you will receive for long range shots. So over longer distances, SMGs will become less and less effective. That's a really, really good thing. I've only played with this for 20-30 minutes on the new labs mode, and I had very little testing that I was able to do. But I did notice in the little bit of testing that I did, it was noticeable how the damage tapered off over distances. And I'm not talking crazy distances. I'm like 15 meters compared to 50 meters and then to 98 meters. There was a noticeable damage drop off. I don't know if it's enough. It's not enough time yet to really tell if it's enough, but it was noticeable, okay? Number two, the elephant in the room is that they did not make any adjustments to limb damage multipliers. And I saw some people in the comments kind of giving feedback, and it seems like not everybody understands what limb damage multiplier is. So I want to show you what limb damage multiplier is. Now I'm going to pull up an old website. I don't have Wacky Jackie's link saved on my computer, but this is just for quick representation. Okay. Wacky Jackie actually has a much better and newer version of this that he spent a lot of time putting together, but just bear with me on this one. Okay. So this little chart is going to say how much damage your weapon is going to do. So we're going to 10 meters. I'll show you just a little example. The G36, here's an assault rifle, the G36 assault rifle. We have a target with no armor, no helmet. Okay. The little numbers is showing you how much damage that target receives when a bullet hits them at that location. All right. So with a G36, which has a damage of 41 per bullet, headshot does 96, upper chest does 45, and a leg shot does 22. Okay. Now watch this. UMP. This is before the update. So this UMP only has damage of 41 per bullet. So same damage as a G36. The headshot damage goes down a little bit. So it was 96, it goes down to 86. Look at the chest damage. The G36 was 45. The UMP actually does more damage to the chest of an unarmored target than the G36 with the same base damage. Then look at the legs. It does 31, almost 32 damage to the upper leg and to the upper arm, whereas the G36 only does 22 damage to the upper arm and upper leg. So that's what limb damage multiplier does, is it gives you, I think it's like 30% extra damage when you hit the limbs of an enemy, but only with SMGs. That's the problem and the complaint with limb damage multipliers. You're rewarding a player for not hitting the critical parts of the enemy. And it gets even worse when you start adding armor to the equation. You put level 2 armor on the character, you're doing 27 to the chest with the G36. You're doing 28.4 with the UMP. This is upper chest with a level 2 target. But if you hit the legs, you're doing 32 damage still because it's unarmored. It doesn't change. In the chest, it goes 45 to 45 with no armor. You're doing the same damage numbers, essentially the same damage numbers in the chest, but you hit him in the leg and all of a sudden the ump is doing 8 more damage per bullet. That's a problem. That's a big problem. The arm is same thing, 30.7 versus 22.1 with the G36. So the issue with limb damage multiplier is you have 1, 2, 3, 4 chances on a target to hit these higher damage limb areas and only 1 head to hit. So if you are a very accurate shooter and you can hit headshots, well, yeah, you could still say, well, CDome, people with SMGs still want to aim for the head because you're going to do more damage than anywhere else in the body. Completely agree, of course. The problem is you don't have to do that. If you're just strafing and spraying with your SMG, you might be trying to hit the head, but what if you have some stray bullets that go off where you weren't expecting them to go, and you just graze the enemy's arm or leg, which again, there's 4 of them to hit. You're getting bonus damage dealt to the enemy. Whereas with an assault rifle, you're obviously not getting that bonus damage dealt. So you're being penalized for that. So that is the complaint with limb damage multiplier from many people in the community. CDome, how do you suggest they appeal to new gamers and make the guns fair? I'm glad you asked, actually. Really glad you asked. So the way I would do it, if it was me, I would take a very similar approach to what they did to SMGs. Me and Bob have actually talked about this for the past, I don't know, couple of months. When we play on Fridays, we get on the topic of gun balances, we talk about SMGs. This is what he and I both agree on. SMGs should be very strong up close. It should be almost like a shotgun, where in close quarter combat, you would prefer to have an SMG. So they should have increased the damage of the SMGs by a little bit, not by a lot, but just make them a bit more powerful up close. I don't agree with the recoil reduction. I think they were already very easy to use. Most of them, maybe the Vector, you could argue, maybe not so much. The MP5K, maybe not so much because of the high fire rate, maybe. But in general, SMGs are pretty easy to control. They already have a movement speed buff compared to assault rifles when you're ADS. So when you're aiming down sight, you can already strafe left and right faster with an SMG than you can with an assault rifle. So they already have some built-in benefits compared to assault rifles. So I would have increased the damage a little bit on them. I would have removed limb damage multiplier. And because I'm increasing the base damage of each of the SMGs, I would taper off the damage over distance more significantly. So I would make it to where, say after 30, 40 meters, it starts to drop off pretty significantly. And by the time you get to 100, 130 meters, they're doing way less damage than what it normally would do if you're at close range. And then if you get anything further than that, you can still use it. You can put a 6X in the Bison and spray it at 150 meters, but it's going to be shooting pea shooters, 9mm, bullets from that far distance. It shouldn't do that much damage, okay? That's the way I think about it, and that's the way I think it should be balanced. The goal shouldn't be to make SMGs like meta with assault rifles. There should be a give and take. Like when you're close range, you as the player should be thinking, okay, I'm in a compound. It's probably best if I pick up a shotgun or an SMG when I'm in a hot drop at a compound. That's kind of how it should be, right? But then you should know, all right, well, as soon as I leave this compound and I'm starting to get out, 50 to 100 meters or more, I'm going to have to consider, man, do I want an assault rifle? Because that's going to be, more usable in that distance. What kind of secondary am I going to go with? A DMR or a bolt action to combo with my primary? These are things you should have to think about. And then when you get into late game, is it a field ending? If it's ended out in the field, then yeah, maybe you want an assault rifle, right? For some long distance engagements. But hey, maybe if it's closing in Yasnaya, you might be thinking to yourself, well, shoot, maybe I kind of do want an SMG again or a shotgun. Like, you should have to make those decisions and trade-offs in the game as the player, instead of it just being like, oh, I land at, a hot drop at school. I grab a barrel and that's the gun I use for the rest of the game. Like, you can do that, of course, and it's a great gun. It's going to do great, but there might be better options for you to use given your situation. Should they limit the use of scopes? Look, that one's, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Because when they did that to the MP9, which they do, the MP9 and the Uzi, you cannot use big scopes. Tommy gun, you cannot use big scopes. And that is a built-in nerf to those weapons. I just don't know if they should force that. I think I'm of the mindset that you should be able to put on whatever scope you want to put on your gun. Like, you should be able to put an 8X on an M249 if you want. You should be able to, do any scope that can fit on the gun. But just because you have a 6X on an SMG doesn't mean the gun should be usable at the range of a 6X. Like, you think you put a 6X in the gun, you're thinking at least 100 meters away the target's going to be at, at least. So you would expect, okay, I can see him, I can shoot him, but my bullets aren't going to do that much damage. Like, to me, that makes more sense than forcing them to be like, oh, you can only use a red dot on those kind of things, Okay, anyway, so we're going to continue. So that's not the only thing in the patch notes, but a nice little tangent we went on there. Recall system. Finally, the blue chip revive system is taking the place of every other revive mechanic in PUBG on all 8x8 maps, which includes Vikendi and Tego now. So the only maps that don't have a way to bring your teammates back, Karakin, Sandhawk, and Paramo. All of the other maps utilize the same exact blue chip recall tower, and if you happen to find the rare item, a blue chip transmitter, that's where you can get that item to bring your teammate back. I was really hoping that they were going to modify the system as well as bring it to all maps, but at least we get this on all maps now. How should they modify it? I think the consensus of most people in the community is the system, if it's going to stay as a recall tower, it should just be an instant recall from above. As soon as you do the 10-second animation, the blue beam of light happens, your teammate should just start parachuting down from there, from that instant. I think that would be the best edit they could make to the system as it is. If they wanted to really revamp it, in my opinion, you take out the item, the self AED item, you reprogram that item to be the revive item, and everybody starts with one of those items in their inventory, and that's how you bring your teammate back to life with that item. Maybe it's a 20-second animation or something like that, but obviously that's not what PUBG wants to do. That's okay. And I think this is a nice middle ground, if you will, because I know some people don't like revives in the game. Speaking of inventory, the old way, when you got a level a ghillie suit, rather, it went over here and it dropped all your clothes and you got a ghillie suit, right? Now the ghillie suit actually has a slot here. It takes up the old slot of a utility belt. That's there. They added explosive weapons into the mastery category. So you can actually get weapon mastery for things like frag grenades, blue zone grenades, Panzerfaust, etc. So that's kind of cool. There's a bunch of bug fixes. I actually didn't read through these yet. Let me breeze through these and see if there's anything big. Oh, here you go. Look, fix an issue where the reload animations weren't displayed. So this actually happened to me on Pump Shotgun. It actually happened for a Car 98 too, but they didn't say it fixed that. Where like you would reload the gun and the number would change on the bottom of your screen that it was getting more ammo, but the animation wasn't doing. They fixed the teleportation bug for a co-op climb on a motorbike. They fixed the DPI bug for 8 and 15x scopes when you use a DPI of 400 and in-game sensitivity of 12 or lower. God, 12 or lower is so low. Damn, I think I have like 20 or 22 and I have a 400 DPI. It's crazy slow. Replay bug is being fixed. Okay. The vaulting bug has been fixed. That's good. That was where you could like fly through the air. That's good. Fix an issue where the game process would remain active after exiting the client instead of terminating properly. So that's a good fix. Oh, look, fix an issue where shooting while riding the zipline in Miramar is disabled. Oh, this bug right here. This bug right here has been in the game since they added the zipline to Miramar. It's very, very interesting that they fixed this issue right when they announced the new zipline item that they were testing. Do y'all remember that? The new zipline item that they showed off in the roadmap you shoot it up like into a window and you can zip line up. You need to be able to shoot guns while you're doing that, and they fixed that. So that's good. All right, so that's the patch notes review. Any questions on the changes that are currently in place right now for PUBG? Any questions on that? Stuff that we can look forward to in the future are going to be, so Troopy, the AK and the SCAR buff, that is coming, but likely not until at least June. So they said with the SMG Rebalance, which, let me reiterate, kind of go back on that just for a second. The SMG Rebalance, which can be found here in the arcade mode, right here, is only in this mode, and it will be here until June. So they're literally going to take 2 or 3 months to implement the changes. However, the mode is only here for 14 days. So you only have 14 days to test it out, and then they're going to take 2.5 months or so before they add it into the game. Now, they might bring that timeline up, but in the roadmap, that's what it said. June is when we can expect the SMG Rebalance. That's when I would suspect the AK and SCAR buff to also enter the game. What else? No word on the exact release date of the Unreal Engine 5 update or the mod support update. That's all still in the pipeline. A lot of people ask, CDome, when they go to Unreal Engine 5, are they going to allow us to keep our skins? We don't know yet. I would hope so. I would think so, but we just don't know for sure yet. All the Lamborghini collaborations, that's all going to be later in the year. No specific dates or timelines have been given out on all that stuff. They could spawn you without having to add a helicopter. Yeah, that's what I think they should do. The revive system, you should not be in a helicopter. It should literally just spawn you down in the sky at the blue light beacon when it shines into the air. You should just come down right there. You should come down completely naked. Got to land on your stuff, get your loot back, or if your teammate is contested, then maybe you do have to fly off and regroup. But the current system where you only come back after each phase ends is silly, because there's potentially 4 to 5 minutes of time between your teammate does the revive mechanic to when you actually come back in the game. Then when you come back in the game, a lot of the times you're spawned way away from your teammate. So you're, alone with no loot and no teammates to back you up to help you get your loot. So it's all backwards right now to me. How many seconds is acceptable for revive? Well, to me, the game that I played that I enjoyed the most, I've played Apex, I played Fortnite, I've played Call of Duty, obviously PUBG, I played Super People, I played all the popular BR games, and they all have their own version of revive. I think for me, the one that fits the best in PUBG's lore and just overall what's the funnest one is the one that was in Super People. That was the one where you had the paddles and it was a 20-second animation time, and you had to literally be crouched on your teammate and do the animation. It was loud as hell. Everybody around you could hear that you were doing the animation. And if it was canceled, you had to start back over. You had to get off of them and defend yourself and then go back and do it again. And there was also a certain amount of time when you could do it. So if your teammate died, it was like a minute or 2 minutes. And then if you didn't do it, you couldn't do it at all. So there was a little bit of a rush and urgency to get it, to get it done. I think that's the best way to do it. And that makes the most sense for PUBG. It's like a military-esque shooter. It should be a paddle revive system, and they obviously can already do it because they have a self AED item, which is essentially the same thing. They could just use that item as the revive mechanic. If they're not going to do the paddle option and they're going to stick to their guns and do the respawn tower, it should be instantly. As soon as you, the player, gets to a revive beacon, not to mention you have to get the chip from your teammate's dead body, which can be stolen and thrown into a bush or a trash can, right? That's also not cool. You have to get the chip from your teammate, make it to a revive beacon, not get killed at the revive beacon, which is very possible because it's out in the open, it makes a whole lot of noise, etc. Then your teammate should come down instantly right there. There should be zero delay, no wait time. Everybody in the immediate area can hear the revive. They can see the beam of blue light, so that's an indication, someone's going to be respawning right there. And on the map, it already blinks. So anytime you pull up your map, if that revive beacon is blinking, you're like, oh, someone just got brought back there. There's an opportunity for us to either go and fight that team while they're trying to loot and get their stuff together, or it's kind of information to keep in your back pocket. We might have a team coming behind us in a little bit. Let's be aware of that, you know? I know some of you can relate. I've gotten brought back in phase 4, but you don't actually get brought back until phase 5 starts. So your teammate, risks their life in phase 4 to find a beacon, do the revive, then they have to survive and make it back into the zone or whatever, wherever the beacon was at. Then you come back in phase 5, which is a pretty small circle, and heaven forbid it's in a field. Like there's sometimes there is no loot to be had, so you come back defenseless, away from your team, you're a sitting duck in the air. Like it's just not a good mechanic. It's better than nothing, I will admit that, but it's not good. I say it all the time. In the comeback arena, the idea of the comeback arena was awesome. The thought of it was awesome, because in their minds, they were thinking, how do we make a phase 9 top 10 situation? How do we recreate that feeling, that intense feeling of like, oh man, I want to get the chicken dinner. There's 10 people left. How do I recreate that feeling? That's what they thought about doing with the comeback arena. The reality is it just didn't happen. That's not how it played out.